Hi, you're watching. This story follows a man who gets transported into a game he was playing and reincarnated into a god named Nebula. And he has to battle 27 other gods to become the sole ruler of the planet and reshape it according to their vision. In the previous chapter, Hwikyung found herself in a dire situation, only to be rescued by Sai-ran, a lizard man who had been secretly assigned to ensure her safety. Initially, Hwikyung was reluctant to accept protection, fearing the curse that plagued her would harm those around her. Nonetheless, Saren's persistence and his indifference to the supposed curse eventually persuaded her to accept his company. Their journey together was relatively uneventful until they neared automation, where they were suddenly ambushed by assassins. Thanks to Saren's quick reflexes, Hwikyung was spared from what could have been a fatal attack. This incident made it clear that the power struggle within automation, often referred to as the Succession War, was escalating to dangerous levels. Now on to the next part. Sai-ran Mule effortlessly dispatched the attackers, affirming Rakrak's judicious decision to send him for Hwikyung's protection. In the aftermath, Sai-ran uncovered that the assailants were nomadic goblins, instigated by a masked figure with orders to assassinate Hwikyung. This revelation led her to suspect her eldest brother, Hui-dan, known to be allied with the influential Geo family as the potential orchestrator behind the assassination attempt. However, Hwikyung realized that mere conjecture would not unravel the truth. Learning to automation was imperative for obtaining answers. But all of this wouldn't be possible without Saren's timely intervention, which she was grateful for. But this also instilled curiosity within her, making her wonder what Saren's background was, especially given Saren's unexpected combat prowess, leading her to inquire if he was indeed a warrior. A question sparked by his attire that seemed atypical of the black-scaled Lizardman tribe's warriors, who were traditionally known to wear water buffalo skulls. A signature Saren's drip lacked. To which Sai-ran quickly clarified that he indeed was a warrior of the black-scaled Lizardman tribe. But wearing buffalo skulls was a tradition reserved for rituals rather than a daily practice. Even though Chief Rakrak often adhered to this custom, Sai-ran himself had mastered the art of spear and arrow under the tutelage of Mr. Ur, the tribe's most esteemed warrior. This revelation took Hwikyung by surprise, drawing her attention toward Sai-ran with renewed interest. Upon closer observation, she noticed how adeptly Sai-ran had tended to the wounds of the goblins, a skill that surpassed even the castle's herbalist and expertise. Curious? She inquired if this was also something he had learned from Ur, to which Sai-ran quickly corrected her, explaining his medical skills were acquired during his time as JL's errand boy. And Hwikyung was taken aback once more, as she realized that Saren's background was far more complex than she had initially thought. JL, much like Rakrak, was a prominent figure within the tribe. While Rakrak led the warriors and protected the tribe from external threats, JL managed internal affairs. Being JL's errand boy, implied Sai-ran operated under her direct oversight. Coupled with his combat training from Ur, it became evident that Sai-ran was no ordinary member of the tribe, but an integral part of its fabric, assigned a crucial role in protecting her. This insight into Saren's past and capabilities made Hwikyung recognize the significant advantage his presence offered in her journey back to automation. She mused that mentioning Saren's involvement might even persuade a certain Geo family member to provide her with some much-needed salt, and she is sure that they won't be cheap in distributing. Since the Geo family is one of the 4 prominent families sanctioned by the Lord of Automation to trade salt, however, Hwikyung's strategizing was interrupted when she noticed Sai-ran distributing her silk to the goblins. Sai-ran explained the importance of this gesture. He believed the goblins could prove beneficial in the future, thus appeasing them with silk was a strategic move, initially hesitant. Hwikyung's trust in Saren's judgment overcame her reluctance, leading her to consent to his decision. After that ordeal was over, Hwikyung and Sai-ran resumed their journey toward automation, only to encounter an unexpected sight as they neared the castle gates. A lineup of merchants had formed, all seemingly puzzled by the gates that remained closed, a rare occurrence that signaled heightened security measures. Curious about the cause of this anomaly, they decided to seek answers from those gathered, searching the nearest merchant. Hwikyung inquired about the closure of the gates. The merchant, recognizing them as fellow traders, shared that entry into the city was currently restricted by the guard's orders, advising that even those who managed to enter would find themselves unable to exit. This unprecedented situation sparked Hwikyung's concern, as nothing similar had occurred in her memory. Despite the merchant's own confusion, it became clear to Hwikyung that the answers she sought could only be found within the city's walls, compelling her to investigate firsthand. Upon her arrival at the gates of automation, Hwikyung proceeded directly to the Geo family's residence. There, she was met with the troubled expression of a Geo family member, a sight that irked her, considering she had expected to be the one expressing dissatisfaction given the mishap with the cart lent to her by the Geo family, which nearly resulted in her demise. The member of the Geo family was momentarily taken aback, unable to fathom how Hwik-young appeared utterly oblivious to the recent unsettling events within the castle. This surprise grew as he observed her genuine confusion, prompting him to inquire about her journey back to automation, suspecting she might have encountered unusual circumstances. Hwik-young disclosed her brush with death, attributing her survival to an unexpected savior, Satanual, a Lizardman warrior dispatched by his tribe for her protection. This introduction led to formal greetings, but meeting with the Geo leader's eyes, Sarah noticed a hint of unease in it, which he quickly discerned that there might be a misconception about their visit being linked to the assassination attempt. To alleviate any concerns, he assured the Geo leader that their investigation with the goblin attackers confirmed the Geo family's non-involvement in the attempt on Hwik-young's life. This reassurance visibly relieved the Geo leader, who emphasized their family's principle of not engaging in malicious activities unlike some others. With the air cleared regarding the assassination attempt, Hwik-young shifted the conversation towards the unsettling events within Automation Castle. She posited that the turmoil couldn't solely be attributed to the attack on her, prompting Gyo to reveal that her assumptions were right, as the assassination attempt happened inside the castle as well. In the midst of the Lord's absence, Hwik-young's brother Ho-din, a prominent candidate for succession, had mysteriously disappeared, adding layers of complexity and intrigue to the ongoing power dynamics and tensions within Automation. This surprised Kyung, but it's strange that the Geo family and Sang family were both keeping quiet about Hwidin's disappearance, so they decided to go into Hwidin's room. As she entered, memories of her past visits flooded back. Despite their closeness during childhood, she had grown distant from her eldest brother over the years, lost in these thoughts. She was brought back to the grim reality by Siren, who discovered a cleaned area where blood had evidently been spilled. Thanks to Siren's keen lizardman senses, better attuned to smell than those of humans, they could tell the amount of blood suggested a fatal outcome, leading them to the grim conclusion that Huidan was likely dead. And it was then revealed to them that the Geo family had noticed this as well, but the problem is that they never found his body. This is why the gates were sealed immediately after the traces were discovered. To prevent the culprit from taking the body out of the castle, it stood to reason that, eventually the decaying body would emit an odor that would lead to the assailant's exposure. However, Hwik-young found herself puzzled by the logistics of the crime, given that Automation's residential structures were tightly clustered together, carved from soft bedrock. Hiding a body within the city would pose a significant challenge, especially with the approaching heat of the rainy season exacerbating decomposition. This inconsistency led her to question the murderer's foresight and logic, wondering how someone could commit such a bold act without considering these inevitable complications. But just as the Geo family had said, they shouldn't think much about it since it will only be a matter of time before the culprit be revealed. And so she was about to move on with this, but somewhere in her heart she heard a voice, asking her if she wanted some help with this case, or is she just going to sit back and wait again for someone else to find this out? And Hwik-young wasn't fond of this voice, telling it to shut up, but she can't deny that the voice was right either, and so she eventually accepted its offer. Prompting the voice to tell her that the culprit could have just preserved the body in salt and throw it away later. This was such an eye-opener, leading her to think where it was best to preserve something as big as a human's body, and a large jar comes into mind. With this, she immediately shared her theory with the group, suggesting that the killer might have employed a large jar as a makeshift crypt. While her companions were initially baffled by this line of reasoning, they chose not to question her further, and just let her cook. And thus, she did just that. She outlined the criteria for potential suspects. They needed to find someone capable of storing large quantities of meat in jars without arousing suspicion, a context in which possessing such jars wouldn't seem out of place. This line of thought pointed them towards individuals closely associated with meat preservation. Namely, butchers and hunters. Among these, the profile narrowed to a person with the means to frequently move in and out of the castle, and the realization easily dawned on them that only a select few within the castle fit this description. The most prominent figure matching all these criteria was none other than a hunter and a potential heir to Automation. Hwik-young. Hit that like button and thanks for watching.